Good Thursday afternoon to you. I hope you're having a great day. Thanks for joining us on Sports4CLE. Well, the second day of the league year in the NFL, very eventful for our Cleveland Browns. A lot of news at the quarterback position. We will dive into that a little later in the show. We will head out to Goodyear, Arizona, check in with the Guardians. We will also have Sam Amico from hoopswire.com. We begin with the Browns early today. Deshaun Watson let the Browns know they were no longer one of the teams he was looking at. It is down to the Falcons and the Saints. But within the last couple of minutes, things are starting to heat up. Baker Mayfield has requested a trade. Browns were offering to fly down to meet with Baker, but from the quarterback's perspective, bridges burned, time to move on now. Mary Kay Cabot then tweeted that Browns have told Baker Mayfield's agent they are not, repeat, not going to accommodate his request. That is per league sources via Mary Kay Cabot. And again, Baker Mayfield, it's in mutual interest of both sides to move on. The relationship too far gone to mend it. Best interests of both sides to move on and move on now. Let's welcome in Quincy Carrier, YouTube personality. And Quincy, what do you make of all this?
Well, I mean, this is an ultimate he is who they said he was kind of moment for Baker Mayfield, right? Like, we've tried to give him the benefit of doubt here that, hey, he could handle situations like this, that he's not going to burst out, if things go down like we thought they were going to go down since, January, right? Once he had finished that season, we'd like, hey, they could look for an upgrade. You thought that, hey, maybe he could handle the situation more maturely. He's more mature than he was when he entered the league. But this whole situation, look, I'm not saying that the Browns are perfect angels in this situation. There are probably things that they wish they could have done to make this easier, but I don't think there is much you could have done to avoid this other than tell Baker Mayfield that you're going to start him no matter what, and that just wasn't an option going into this offseason.
Yeah, and again, in the NFL, if you play quarterback and you don't win the Super Bowl and you're not one of the top 5 or 6 quarterbacks, it happens. Last year it was Jimmy Garoppolo. The 49ers traded 3 number 1 picks to trade up to get a quarterback. Jimmy Garoppolo was playing quarterback with this guy on the bench, and he let him deep into the playoffs. Jared Goff, they traded for Matthew Stafford. This thing happens to NFL quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm. And it's something that, if you're not one of those guys, and this is where I get actually concerned for Baker Mayfield's career, because talent-wise, he should be in the NFL for a while. But when you do stuff like this and you're not one of those guys, right? Teams aren't going to put up with it, and you won't stay in the league. Like, there are a number of guys who did not stick in the league, not because they're not talented enough to play in it, but because teams don't want to deal with this, right? And when you're the level of quarterback that Baker Mayfield is, which is, hey, at his best, he's probably around the top 10, but not in the top 10. And at his worst, he was 27th in QBR this year. Then teams are going to want a guy who they're not going to have to worry about him releasing a statement or him requesting a trade or whether he's happy or not, that they know that he's going to be a professional, show up to work, and not complain either way. That's just what guys want out of that quarterback position when you're not one of those guys. And when you go out and do something like this, it's not just a signal to the Cleveland Browns that, hey, look, this no matter what, if he plays this year, I don't know, right, for the Cleveland Browns. But it's over after this contract's up for him. And unless he puts out the best season by far he's ever had, this could be something that could hurt his ability to stick in the league, because this is not behavior that people want out of somebody who's going to be in the position that Baker Mayfield is going to be in after this year, which is maybe we start him, maybe we put him on the bench. Do you feel comfortable if you're another NFL team seeing what's going down with Cleveland that, hey, I can sign Baker Mayfield to be a backup quarterback and he's not going to, shake anything and make anything awkward in the building? I wouldn't. And I think a lot of people around the league wouldn't. This is just a whole mess. Look, the Browns, again, they could have done things better, but a lot of the stuff we're talking about is coming from the Baker Mayfield side. The letter, the trade request. There was the one comment about we want an adult at quarterback, and quite frankly, some people are going to agree with that for good reason, but it probably shouldn't have come out, right? That probably wasn't a good thing to come out. But this is Baker Mayfield, and this is just, not helping his cause for next year in Cleveland. It's not helping his cause for the rest of his career. Like, you don't see Matt Ryan doing this for a specific reason. Alex Smith did not do this when he was the lame duck in San Francisco. Same thing with Jimmy Garoppolo, right? They all have to understand at some point, this is a business. It's not personal. People are going to look to upgrade. I'm not the best guy in my position. But unfortunately, I think he might feel like he's Aaron Rodgers. Like, this is stuff that you would expect from Aaron Rodgers, not somebody who, is of Baker Mayfield's caliber.
All right, so you kind of alluded to the adult comment. Here is what we were talking about with that. Chris Mortensen on the Browns quarterback position. This was yesterday. Take a listen to Chris Mortensen from ESPN.
They're breaking up, regardless of whether or not Deshaun Watson ends up in Cleveland. And the one thing I was told is that it's just not a match emotionally, whereas Baker Mayfield's passion and emotional leadership was embraced at Oklahoma, and even in the beginning with the Browns, things have changed, and they want what they consider an adult at that position, and that the Baker Mayfield probably is going to be moved. I think Seattle may end up being a candidate, certainly for Baker Mayfield. Other people may say the Colts. And then who's an adult? Well, listen, Jimmy Garoppolo is scheme-friendly, and yes, he has a shoulder recovery, so does Baker Mayfield. But Jimmy Garoppolo is one I would not ignore for Cleveland.
And Quincy, you can argue, is it an upgrade, is it not an upgrade? But in a report like that, when a name is attached, you listen to it. And again, if you're Baker Mayfield, that probably did not sit well with you.
Oh, because it's an attack on his I don't know if it's his character, but it's an attack on at least his leadership style, right? Like, this was something that John Dorsey wanted, right? When he drafted Baker Mayfield, he loved it. He embraced it. He wanted to build around it. It's why he hired Freddie Kitchens, because he felt like Freddie would go with the Baker Mayfield stuff. That imploded, right? At that moment after 2019, when that imploded, that should have been the sign to Baker Mayfield, okay, the Oklahoma stuff not going to work in the NFL, or I'm not going to be able to do it here, right, in this situation. So I had to adjust. And he did a good job adjusting, right? In 2020, he didn't do the Baker antics. He was pretty reserved, had the best season of his career, full season of his career at least, went to the divisional round. And then this year, he had some bad games. So this is a full regression here. And look, I don't think Jimmy Garoppolo is an upgrade on the field from Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield is a far more talented quarterback, a far more capable quarterback at times. Not as well, they're both inconsistent, but they're both similarly leveled quarterbacks, but Baker Mayfield has higher potential than Jimmy Garoppolo. If we're just talking about on the field, the difference is that Jimmy Garoppolo, you can't get a teammate to say a single bad word about him. He has been as limited and not as good as he has been for a while, and his wide receivers are not complaining about him en masse. They praise him. That's something that Baker Mayfield has not been able to get. And this is a guy who's just well-liked by everybody who's come in contact with him, right? That is where the upgrade is, right? That's what they want to upgrade at the end of the day, is they want to deal with the quarterback who they feel like is a real leader in the way that they want leadership. And Baker Mayfield's style of leadership, it does not go with how Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry do business. And if we just check out the general demeanor of these guys, right? Andrew Berry's pretty reserved, doesn't really say a lot, not the most on it. He doesn't wear his emotions on his sleeve. Kevin Stefanski most certainly like that. This is something that in hindsight, we probably could have seen coming, because those leadership styles did not clash well with Baker Mayfield's leadership styles. And I think things have come to a point to where, I don't know what else you do with these two. If they can't get along, if Baker's going to kick and scream all year. And I honestly, if you're Baker Mayfield's camp, what's the end game here? Are you going to sit out an entire year at $18 million when you ain't going to get that money next year if you sit out? And how does this help Baker Mayfield to make this request? He's not going to sit out. At the end of the day, he's a player that's not at the level of Aaron Rodgers where he can sit out, right? He has to come to work for whoever has his contract at the end of the day. So this just puts him in an even more awkward situation. And if he thinks it's hard to lead when the coaching staff and the GM don't really have the same leadership styles, it's going to be way harder to lead when you've requested a trade and kind of have to come back hat in hand because you don't have the power to sit out. I don't know what his camp is thinking here, because this just doesn't seem like a smart play, not just for the Browns, but for Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, I would agree. All right, time for us to head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. This one about the Browns quarterback situation.
Hi, everyone. So the best trade is the one you don't make. Everyone's heard of that. I'm at the point now that I hope Deshaun Watson decides to go back to Atlanta with all his baggage so that we can then go after Matty Ice Ryan. Look at what Denver did a few years ago getting Peyton Manning. Picture Matt Ryan behind this O-line, one of the best in the league, with our running game, one of the best in the league, and the number one receiver in Amari Cooper. All that while keeping our draft stock minus what it would take to get Matty Ice. Any thoughts would be appreciated. Thanks now.
Quincy, I don't, at the stage of Matt Ryan's career, I don't know that that's an upgrade. It's I guess the position you're in now, my question is, what's it going to cost?
Yeah, with Matt Ryan, the cost is, I think that's not as realistic as a lot of people want it to be, just because the cap situation is crazy with Matt Ryan this year, right? It's like a $50 million cap hit. So that means Atlanta would have to eat a portion of that in order to move him. And if they get Watson, they're not eating any cap. So I just don't know if that would happen unless they figure out a way to restructure it and buy him out. At that point, that's above my grasp. But yeah, with Matt Ryan, I guess, again, this is kind of similar to the Jimmy G thing. I don't think when they talk about upgrading the quarterback position at this point, they're not just talking about upgrading the play on the field. They might be just talking about upgrading what they want from that position from a leadership standpoint. And that Matt Ryan will bring you that. I mean, he's been in this situation along with Baker. He's been fine. And he's an actual franchise legend. He's been an MVP before. He's handling this with grace. It's a tough situation for any quarterback to be in, but you want to see him handle it with grace. And again, Baker Mayfield has gone beyond not handling this with grace at this point.
All right, before we go to break, who are some legitimate candidates if it is not Baker Mayfield at quarterback? Who comes to your mind? I have a couple in mind. Who comes to your mind?
Yeah, Jordan Love seems to me to be the quintessential Andrew Berry kind of thing, because if you look at Andrew Berry, who he likes to bring in, they're usually under the age of 27. They're guys that are going to get a second chance, that are still very young. He doesn't really bring in that many veterans, right? So I think Jordan Love would make sense. I would not rule out the possibility of them trying to get Tua. That would be something that makes sense. Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be somebody that's out there. Jameis Winston. I mean, at this point, Jameis Winston had a really good year last year before he got injured. He's going to be a free agent. A lot of teams are going to be coming off the market here, so his value might not end up being that high. Now, there are questions about leadership with Jameis, but Jameis kind of handled his situation the last year in Tampa Bay and his last year in New Orleans quite well. He didn't have these same outbursts, so maybe they feel comfortable with that. But I know everybody's going towards veterans, Derek Carr, those guys. I don't know how realistic that is. When you look at Andrew Berry, he has a track record at what he likes to bring in. I don't think necessarily that changes for quarterback. And the guys under 27, that might be where he's leaning. Marcus Mariota is another one, right, that he could probably go with.
Yep, you hit all the names that I thought were possibilities as well. Don't go anywhere. Quincy Carrier, YouTube personality, and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. We continue talking Browns and the quarterback situation. We'll get some national perspectives on what's going on with Baker Mayfield. Sports for CLE. Be right back. Stay with us.
Life is getting back on track, and you can too. If you or your family have experienced financial hardship as a result of COVID-19, Tri-C can help with tuition assistance. Safely get the in-demand degree or training you need with online and on-campus classes. Go to tri-c.edu to check out our programs and resources. So, what are you waiting for? Register now for spring classes. Tri-C is where futures begin.
We continue talking Browns with Quincy Carrier, YouTube personality. All right, so let's check in with Booger McFarland and Ryan Clark on Baker Mayfield's future. This is from ESPN's Get Up.
I don't know if Baker Mayfield deserves to be a backup quarterback right now, because if you're a starting quarterback in the National Football League and teams out there realize that you can help them win, okay, they're going to bring you in and say, hey, this is the guy that we're going to play with. This is the guy that we're going to build around. Who is Baker Mayfield going to do that for right now? Like, who is Baker Mayfield? If Cleveland don't want you, how can my franchise say that I want you? So I think Baker has to go back, and Baker has to analyze, can he still play in this league? Because if Cleveland doesn't want him, then who else is going to want him to be their starting quarterback?
Booger's being a little mean.
Okay.
Booger, he hasn't had breakfast. He hopped right up. He got on the Peloton with Alex Tucson. His sugar is low. Baker Mayfield is going to get a job. Booger, you know this. When you're drafted #1 overall, it takes an entire lifetime to prove to the world that you can't play. It's the same reason that Carson Wentz is the quarterback of the Washington Commanders right now. Baker Mayfield would be a guy that they'd love to have in Seattle now. He's a guy that Indianapolis is going to kick the tires on around. He's done enough in this league where they're going to give him another chance.
And Quincy, I'm a big fan of Ryan Clark's. Ryan Clark was cracking me up this morning. But he makes a very valid point. There's a market for Baker Mayfield. It may not be as robust as the Browns would like, but there's a market for him.
Yeah, then again, a lot of the weirdness with the reports, right, where we're hearing one thing and then getting right back another thing, is this tug and pull of the Browns like, hey, if we want to trade him, we have to make it seem like we value him still, right? That's why I felt like having that comment come out about you want an adult, that doesn't make it easy to trade Baker Mayfield, right? So there are going to be reports all over the place, and this is probably going to go on until the draft. But, yeah, when it comes to Baker Mayfield and his future, yeah, there's going to be a team that's going to give him a chance. I don't know if it's the chance that he wants, right? Because is it like, I would love to get to know what's really bugging him with this. Is it that he's going to have to, he's not the clear-cut guy here anymore, that this is not the guy we're putting all our chips in anymore? Or is it that they pursued somebody that he felt like wasn't as good? Like, I don't understand what the huge issue is with him to the point where he had to blow up to this, and where he thinks he's not going to run into this. Because if he gets traded to Indy, they're probably going to have somebody back there, right? A Jacoby Brissett or something like that to be his backup that's not a lame duck. And the same thing with Seattle. So, yeah, there's going to be a team that wants to give him a shot. But again, Baker Mayfield and how he handles this can be the difference from, hey, a team thinks they can fix this guy and get him on track, or a team feels like it ain't even worth kicking the tires on. And Ryan is right. He is a first overall pick. He has had a couple of good years in NFL. There are going to be teams based on pure talent that are going to want to kick the tires on him. But this is not a similar situation to a Carson Wentz last year, where people felt like his situation failed him around the league, or not a Jared Goff, but Jared Goff similar to this, or any other situation where you would compare to it, where you're like, oh, okay, this Sam Darnold, right, where they felt like the team failed this guy. People around the league don't think the Browns failed Baker Mayfield. They felt like they did enough to put around him. So it takes somebody who really, really wants to believe in him to do it. And that's going to be the issue that they're going to run up against. Like, yeah, you might have a team that is willing to trade for Baker Mayfield, but if you don't have teams that are willing to trade for him all at the same time, you have no market, and your hands are tied.
Yeah, and him coming out and demanding a trade is probably the worst thing for the value and the ability to trade him. All right, we're going to head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. This one with an interesting question before all this broke early this afternoon.
Hi, this is Mustafa, 50-year Brown fan. Say what's up, guys. My question being, with all the speculation surrounding the pursuit of Deshaun Watson, what do you guys feel that's doing to the mentality of Baker Mayfield? I mean, of course, he had a very tumultuous last season. And now, with the speculation of him not being in Cleveland, what do you think that's going to do for him mentally moving forward if we decide to keep Baker Mayfield? Thank you.
Well, again, we found out it has not been good for his mental approach to being the quarterback here.
Yeah, I don't know what the environment's going to be like in the stadium, too. And that's something that affects him, too. You have to worry about all of these other factors with Baker Mayfield, which is coming out. And again, the more this stuff comes out, the harder it gets to trade him. Because it's like, yeah, if you bring Baker Mayfield back, you can bring him back contractually. He'll have to come back. And I promise you he'll play if he has to be brought back, because he ain't got no choice. But what quality of quarterback play you going to get when, we know that the outside stuff affects him way more than it should. And he's going to deal with all the outside stuff. The environment at the stadium is not going to feel like a home game for him, right? Or at least at this point. Things can change by the time we get to September because it's a long way away. But, it's just one of those things where people try to tell us about this with Baker Mayfield, that, hey, the way he approaches this, he has to mature. He can't keep doing this in the NFL because it's a business in the NFL. People have said this for years about him. And we thought that he had matured in 2020. We're finding out that he just did that because they were winning. And that's very concerning. Whether he comes back or not, this is a huge concern. I mean, when's the last time with any quarterback in the NFL we have had a situation like this? This is almost Ryan Leaf-like, right? Where it's just, what in the world's going on? I mean, like, Johnny Manziel was a mess for other reasons, but it wasn't because he was kicking and screaming while he was on the team. This is just odd. And I struggle to find a parallel.
Yeah, and again, the one thing that you can take away from this is Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry were telling the truth when they said that injury was not the only thing that was affecting the quarterback play. The fact that they went out and are looking at options tells you they thought he was healthy enough to play better, without question. All right, let's take a look. This is from Bleacher Report. Potential landing spots for Baker Mayfield. They give us 3 of them. The first one you got is the Lions, and the Browns get a 3rd-round pick. Remember, John Dorsey, who drafted him, is in the Lions front office. Another one, the Colts, and again, the Browns get a 3rd-round pick. And again, Seahawks and the Browns get a 3rd-round pick. So if you're to believe that, the value for Baker Mayfield right now is a 3rd-round pick for a guy who, 5 short years ago, was the number 1 overall pick. So it's not great.
Yeah, the value on him has aged rapidly since last summer, right? Because we were talking about, we could just trade him straight up for certain guys, right? And that would be the deal. Now it's like, hey, I would jump at the opportunity to get a 3rd-round pick just to get my hands clean of this whole situation for the sake of the building. So in some of those situations, again, like even the Detroit one, does that mean you have to bring in Jared Goff? Because they still have him under contract for a couple of years. I doubt they're going to pay Jared Goff $25 million and to have Baker Mayfield on the roster at $18 million. That 5th-year option is another thing that makes it hard to trade Baker Mayfield, right? Because you're taking him on at $18 million. And if you look at the history of guys who have had 5th-year options where teams have wanted to trade them during that 5th-year option year, you don't find many successful trades, right? Remember when the Browns wanted to do it with David Njoku last year, it led to them just ended up keeping David Njoku, even though they kind of wanted to trade him last year. Same thing happened with Eric Ebron. It's a very hard thing to trade a quarterback on a 5th, or trade any player on their 5th-year option, because that's all guaranteed, and that's a huge cap hit for teams. And it's for a player that there's not a lot of guarantees about because you're trading them within their rookie deal. So you're clearly not sold on. So that's going to complicate things. This is a uphill battle to trade Baker Mayfield if you're the Cleveland Browns. So it could be a 3rd-round pick. I think a 3rd-round pick might be generous. Like, I think you could end up with a 5th, if you just really want to get rid of him. Like, the value on him isn't just about what he's done in the past. It's also his contract situation. It's also this whole situation, right? We want to get rid of this mess just to get rid of it because we're tired of dealing with the Twitter stuff with Baker Mayfield. And somebody else is going to inherit this, right? Like, you're trading that to them. So this isn't just a straight up football analysis trade value kind of deal. This is a lot that goes into the value and the devaluation of Baker Mayfield as well.
Quincy Carrier and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. Other side of the break, we head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. Also hear from one of the newer Browns, Amari Cooper. Sports4CLE. I'll be right back. Stay with us. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students, kindergarten through 12th grade, can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. We continue talking Browns here on Sports4CLE. Time to head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. This one about the front office.
Hey, just a little comment about, the Andrew Berry Stefanski staff and everybody who thinks Baker Mayfield's getting treated wrong. My thing is, it's just my opinion, but Baker wasn't their guy. They didn't draft Baker, but they decided to give him a chance. They saw 2 years of him and decided, hey, we want to move off of him. I'm okay with that. It's sad to see Baker go if he goes or when he goes, but at the end of the day, they didn't draft him. He's not their guy. So they gave him the chance to prove him wrong. Now they want to get their guy. So let's hope for the best. Go Browns.
Yeah, and Quincy, I think it's important to point out, Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry, they have to win. They know from experience, you don't win, you don't keep jobs like those. And they clearly are looking for a quarterback that helps them win more.
Yeah, they want winning quarterback play. And look, again, NFL's a business, man. Like, it is a business at the end of the day. If Aaron Rodgers could have a quarterback drafted while he's still on the team, and Aaron Rodgers knows that can happen because Brett Favre, it happened to him with him, right? Like, this happens. Whether you're a legend or not, teams are going to move on at some point if they think you're not good enough. Tom Brady was let go. Well, not let go, but he walked from New England because they didn't want him anymore, right? And if that can happen to Tom Brady, if Tom Brady can entertain trade rumors about him because they want to move on to Jimmy Garoppolo, remember that was happening in 2014, then it can happen to anyone. So I understand if you are a diehard Baker Mayfield fan where you're like, oh, this is wrong what they're doing to Baker Mayfield, because some of the stuff that we do in the pursuit of business is wrong. But it's the standard of what's out there. Like, it's not a surprise that this is happening to anybody that's been paying attention. And Baker Mayfield is not immune to this. And what this reads off to me is entitlement. Like, he felt like he was entitled to be the starter for the 2022-2023 season. And given how he played in 2021, I don't understand how anybody around him gave him that as a reasonable expectation that he was entitled to the starting job. He should have hoped that he was able to get an opportunity to start with the Cleveland Browns again, just so he can prove people wrong on that shoulder. That would have been the right way to go about it. But this is sounding like it's entitled. And again, every other quarterback that's been in this situation has handled this situation better than Baker Mayfield. And that is an issue when it comes into trading him. Like, it's an issue.
Yeah, you are basically the CEO of this team, and you got to handle that kind of thing better. All right, here we go. Let's talk about some more pleasant stuff. Amari Cooper, Browns' new number 1 wide receiver, going to wear number 2. Cooper addressed a quick message to the fans. Here's Amari Cooper. Says he's ready to go.
What's up, Cleveland? Amari Cooper here. Glad to be in the city, ready to get to work. Let's go.
And the one thing, it's a quick bit, it's a quick snippet, but he does not seem like the boisterous diva that some of the wide receivers that are number 1s are. Just a quick reaction to Cooper, and the thing you hear about Cooper, he's not going to freelance a lot on his routes. Runs routes precisely and gets open. That's a good change.
Yeah, he sounded like Nick Chubb. I thought that was Nick Chubb when I first saw the clip online. But I wonder what's going through his mind right now, because he just got here a couple of days ago. And things have gotten wild around his whole situation. It ain't like he can go back now. Like, he's stuck here. So I would love to know what's going on with him and how he's feeling. But I'm happy that they have him there. Amari Cooper, I've always liked Amari Cooper ever since he came out of Alabama. Precise route runner, very physical guy, loves to block, and just a reliable catcher of the football there. Hopefully they find a situation that works out for him. And Amari Cooper would be a great guy to have, that if you do have to start a younger quarterback, or if you do have to start somebody you feel like is a little bit more limited, you have a guy you can rely on at that position to be where you want him to be, which is what they wanted out the wide receivers in his offense. So he's an elite level, well, not elite, but he's an exceptional level of a wide receiver that for what especially they want to do at that position. which is, the Stefanski, Shanahan style offense.
Yeah, well, 2 words. He's used to Jerry Jones, so this is different, but it really isn't that much different. It takes a lot. He's lived through Jerry Jones. It takes a lot to kind of shake Amari up, I'm pretty sure. All right, let's take a look at a mock draft. This is a 3-round mock draft. Mike Renner from Pro Football Focus. So he gives the Browns Drake London, a big physical wide receiver, at 13. Then he goes double dips, first 2 picks. Wide receivers, they go Dotson at 44. Then they come and get a linebacker, Troy Anderson from Montana State at 78, and Cole Strange, a guard from UT Chattanooga at 99. I don't know about getting 2 wide receivers. I'm not against it, Quincy, but we need some edge rushers at this point in time and some D linemen. You got to fortify that D line that has been kind of decimated by free agency and guys just kind of washing out and getting in some trouble.
Oh, y'all know exactly who y'all brought on this show if you want to talk about defensive linemen. I have been on record. I want the Browns to go jumbo, go as big as possible, as you want. Just fill up the offensive line or the defensive line if you want to. Because if we're looking at wide receiver, that means you're building around a piece on offense. Right now we have Nick Chubb. We don't really have the piece to build around. Baker Mayfield's future is more than uncertain with the Cleveland Browns, and we don't even know who the next quarterback's going to be if it's not him. So drafting wide receivers at 13 especially, that's out the window to me. But if you do want to build around somebody, let's build around the franchise player, which is 95, Myles Garrett. That's the best player on the team. That's the dude who's going to be here. You know he's going to be here for the next 4 years at least. So do your best to build around him. Go big. Get players that's going to fill gaps. Take double teams up. Jordan Davis is an incredible athlete. He jumps higher than Jarvis Landry, like 4 inches higher than Jarvis Landry, and has a better broad jump than Odell Beckham. And he's 345 pounds at 6'6". Okay, Perion Winfrey is somebody you go to in the second round. This draft is loaded with big fellas, especially in the interior, that are going to pay off in the long run. And look, I know it's never popular to go big, especially on the defensive side. There's always people who want to say that's not what you should do ever, but that's one of them situations I feel like you're going to be wrong the day of. You're not going to get the best draft grades from the analysts the day you do it, but you'll be happy in September that you did it, because if you get Jordan Davis or you get Perion Winfrey in the second round, and let's say you get an extra 3rd round pick, you can spend that on a wide receiver from the Baker Mayfield trade. Then I think you're in pretty good position, pending that you can figure out something reasonable at the quarterback position.
Yeah, I would agree. All right, before we head to break, let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. And this one kind of about the roster makeup and Andrew Berry.
Hey, how you doing? Is it just me, or does it seem like Andrew Berry and, that front office are ushering out John Dorsey players little by little to bring in their own, which is okay by me, with the exception of a few, as you know, they really love Njoku, and it seems like they want to keep Ward. And, no matter who drafted Myles Garrett, he's not going anywhere. But, I mean, if you look at it, they did re-sign Taylor, but if you look at it other than that, they've kind of ushered out the John Dorsey era little by little. And, now they want to find their own quarterback. What do you guys think? Go Browns.
All right, appreciate the call. That's kind of the way the NFL goes with the salary cap. You get off those rookie deals, and you have to kind of recycle certain guys that aren't the core pillars of your foundation. That's just, we're not used to that here in Cleveland because we haven't had many second contracts. This is the way winning teams have to operate and rebuild their rosters.
Yeah, and it's like, hey, like he got rid of anybody good, right? Like we kept all the good players, right? Like if we were talking about they want to get rid of Denzel Ward just because John Dorsey drafted him, I would understand that point. Like, okay, they're just obviously trying to get rid of guys who were playing for John Dorsey. But no, they're obviously trying to keep the guys that John Dorsey brought in that were good. But if John Dorsey brought in some stuff that they didn't like, they're going to get rid of it. That's just how it works, because you have to have pieces that fit what you want to do at the end of the day. And look, one thing you can't complain about Andrew Berry, he's worked really hard to keep the good players on his team. He forgot to mention Nick Chubb was a John Dorsey pick. They have locked that up, right? Kareem Hunt, the ultimate John Dorsey signing, right? He locked that up. Like, if you can play football, Andrew Berry ain't got no problem keeping you just because somebody else brought you in. I don't know where that comes from at all. I mean, I know he's gotten rid of some of John Dorsey's players, but I mean, it's nothing that anybody really disagreed with. Like, there's disagreements on whether you should keep Jarvis Landry, but when you see the cap number on that, that makes sense, right? Like, this all makes sense. I don't think this is an agenda that they have to get rid of other GM's guys. It's just, you know, if another GM brought somebody in that they don't think fits the team's message anymore, then they just gonna get rid of them. You know, that's just point blank, period.
Yeah, and you got to do it because of the salary cap. Quincy Carrier and I are going to step aside, take one more time out on the other side of the break. We head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. We'll also hear more about Baker Mayfield and the social media post, Sports4CLE. Be right back. Stay with us.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
Welcome back, Sports4CLE. Quincy Carrier and I talking Browns. We're going to go back-to-back with some voicemails here before we wrap things up. All right, let's head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. This one kind of about the relationship between Baker Mayfield and the Cleveland Browns fans.
I think a lot of Cleveland fans are way too bought into Baker Mayfield. They need to understand that what the Browns are doing is a business decision for the future of the Browns franchise. I think the Browns are putting the proposition of a Super Bowl at the forefront of their decision-making. And I think almost anybody that is a real football fan and not just a Cleveland homer would understand that Baker probably isn't the answer, and that if you're looking at a guy that even if you sign him to an extension this season, franchise tag him, the idea is that he probably still won't get a long-term extension next season. Browns fans have to understand that if you're already looking to replace the guy in next year's draft, you may or may not need him this year. And with the pieces and parts we have, you can put a bunch of other guys back there and just be just as effective.
And Quincy, again, that's the bottom line. There's nothing that the Browns have against Baker Mayfield. They're trying to upgrade the position of quarterback, most important position on the field. That's it. There's no agenda. There's no hidden agenda.
Nah, they ain't trying to look. They can have all their personal quabbles with Baker Mayfield they want. Baker Mayfield would have had the year people wanted him to have this year, right? If he would have threw for 5,000 yards, 40 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, oh, man, we'd be all wearing Baker Mayfield jerseys and we wouldn't be talking about nothing, right? We would be extremely happy with where we're at quarterback position and we wouldn't care. But that's not the year that he had, right? Like, he did not have a good year. And now we're at the point to where, hey, you know, we need competency at that position on a consistent basis, and that's just not what he's provided throughout the bulk of his career, is competency. He has had some great moments. He has had some great games, but he has not consistently delivered competency. And in that system, a premium in this system is competency. They need somebody to be competent at the quarterback position. It's not a mistake, even though I am not the biggest fan of Case Keenum. I don't think he should start by any means, but Case Keenum is competent out there, right? They won 2 games with Case Keenum this year. Granted, it was a game against Cincinnati where they didn't care, but they won a legitimate game against Denver there with him. And it's because they value, just competency and consistency. They can build around that. They can work with that for a couple of years. And I think that's what they're looking to get to. It's just somebody that they can feel like is either that, or if they don't feel like they can get that, somebody they feel like they can develop into that, which is where the Jordan Loves, the Marcus Mariotas, and the Jameis Winstons get involved.
Yeah, and consistency is a key as well. Baker has been wildly inconsistent, and you can't have that from your quarterback. All right, let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. Another one about Baker Mayfield and kind of his tenure here with the Browns.
I appreciate your program, even though I disagree with your take on the Browns' quarterback direction. You and your guests constantly point to Baker Mayfield's inconsistency, but always fail to mention the fact that he has had 3 different head coaches and 4 different offensive coaches and schemes to learn in his 4 years with the team. When paired with Coach Stefanski, it took Baker a half season to master his 4th offensive scheme and then produce the greatest Browns season in 20 years and their first playoff victory, as well as being viewed as a top 6 to 8 NFL quarterback by most NFL analysts. Anybody judging Baker Mayfield on his 2021 season are not being logical. Not only was he injured and should have been shut down after the third game, but the offensive line was a shell of itself due to injury, and the wide receivers just plain stunk.
And again, we appreciate all of the voicemails. The one thing I'd say, he's had four offensive coordinators. It was his second year in Kevin Stefanski's system, and he didn't show the growth. And, you know, you can judge by the fact that the Browns are looking to upgrade the position that they didn't think it was all related to the injury. So, yes, the injury was a factor. They kept telling you it wasn't that he's healthy enough to play. If he's healthy enough to play and he's playing, he's going to be graded. And he didn't play well enough.
Yeah, and then when they thought that he wasn't healthy enough to play, they benched him, right? They did not have an issue taking him out against Denver when they felt like he shouldn't be out there, right? Remember, that week, it's funny how this all gets changed, where it's like, oh, the team forced Baker Mayfield out there. No, Baker Mayfield tried to force his way back out there on Thursday Night Football and get a second opinion on an injury that they said that they weren't going to play him with, right? That's what happened during the year. He wanted to play through this injury. He felt like he was healthy enough to play through this injury, and, you know, it turned out that he wasn't. So it turns out that either he wasn't or he wasn't good, right? And I take issue when people tell me that I can't evaluate 2021 on tape. That is a ridiculous notion to me. If a guy's healthy enough to play, he's healthy enough to be evaluated. That's how the NFL works. Nobody is going to cut MJ Stewart slack if he's out there playing hurt, but he's out there if he's getting burnt. Nobody cut Andrew Sadeo the slack when he was playing hurt and getting toasted last year, right? Nobody's like, oh man, let's give Andrew Sadeo a chance. He was hurt last year. No, y'all wanted him gone, right? Just because it's a player that you like doesn't mean that changes. And when it comes to Baker Mayfield, it's not just 2021, right? There's 2020 as well. Well, not 2020, 2019 as well. There's the first half of 2020. There's the first three starts after the New York game in 2019 or 2018, right? His rookie year. There are a number of bad starts. And the issue I had with Baker Mayfield and his tape with 2021 wasn't that new problems popped up, right? If it were new problems, I would feel comfortable saying, hey, it's the injury. It wasn't new problems, though. It was the same stuff we've been complaining about since 2018 that he needs to improve, right? Footwork. This is still bad. It's still really bad. Ability to read the field. Decision-making, right? If you're going to play hurt as a quarterback in the NFL, what do quarterbacks do when they lose physical capability, right? They double down on what they can do mentally. They double down on their ability to read the field, and they win with that. That's what we expected out of Baker Mayfield, even if he's hurt, to be a guy, and this is what franchise quarterbacks do. This is what Ben Roethlisberger has done. This is what every other franchise, Peyton Manning has done, like every franchise quarterback you can name. When they're hurt, it doesn't dip to this level because they can rely on another part of their game. And what we found out is that when Baker Mayfield is forced to use his ability to read the field and his ability to deliver consistent, accurate footballs with a clean pocket, he doesn't do that consistently, shoulder injury or not. And that's been popping up for 4 years now. We've been talking about the same issues for 4 years with Baker Mayfield. And there are 4 different excuses for every time he's had those issues. And at some point, you just have to call it what it is, right? And after 4 years, 4 years is a long, long time. I graduated college in 4 years. I became a whole different person in 4 years. 4 years is a long time to evaluate somebody. So if you haven't seen consistent growth in the direction that you wanted, then it is what it is, right? Josh Allen took 2 years to figure it out. Now people were like, oh, Josh Allen had the same coach. No, Josh Allen in the offseason decided that he was going to work on everything. And I promise you that Brian Daboll's not there next year. He's not going to look like a different guy, right? He's going to still look like Josh Allen because he put in the work himself to fix his footwork problems. If you go on tape, you look at the issues Josh Allen had in year 1 and year 2, and you look at the issues that he had in year 3 and year 4, not the same. Because he doesn't have any issues right now because he's that good. He worked on all of them. That's what you wanted to see. And the fact that none of those things changed and that the injuries happened and you saw the same problems that you saw in year 3, year 2, and year 1, because there were issues in all 4 of those years about his ability to read the field and deliver accurate footballs because he's always had these issues. then you have to understand it like, hey, man, this is just who the guy is, right? And we can wait forever for him to have the perfect, healthy season. That doesn't change that the issues are still the same. And if he's looking at this is what really concerns me. If he's looking at this as, oh, I need to fix my footwork. I need to fix my game. I was bad last year. If he's really looking at this, like how people with Baker Mayfield Twitter accounts are looking at this, where it's like, oh, it was only the injury that causes problems, I am massively concerned about that proposition, because that tells me he's probably not even working on the things that you want him to work on, which is a ridiculous notion at this point, after 4 years of the same issues.
Yeah, Quincy, I agree with you. He needs to be significantly more consistent in pretty much everything. Quincy Carrier, as always, man, appreciate the time and the insight. Great stuff. Quincy, thanks so much.
Yeah, no problem, man. Thanks for being on. Happy to be on.
All right, man. Quincy Carrier, YouTube personality, again, with some really good stuff about Baker Mayfield and Browns. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. On the other side of the break, we turn our attention to the Cavaliers, coming off a tough loss to the 76ers. We will dive into the Cavs with Sam Amico from hoopswire.com. Stay with us on Sports4CLE.
Life is getting back on track, and you can too. If you or your family have experienced financial hardship as a result of COVID-19, Tri-C can help with tuition assistance. Safely get the in-demand degree or training you need with online and on-campus classes. Go to tri-c.edu to check out our programs and resources. So, what are you waiting for? Register now for spring classes. Tri-C is where futures begin.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. Welcome back to Sports4CLE. We turn our attention to the Cavs coming off a tough loss to the Philadelphia Sixers last night. Head coach J.B. Bickerstaff talked about the Cavs and kind of getting that feeling back and getting back on the winning ways.
It's our expectations. We don't expect anything less than our guys to fight and scrap. You set that standard at the beginning of the year. You set it in wins and losses. This is who we are. I mean, this is who we've been for the majority of the year. I thought our guys lived up to that tonight.
Let's welcome in Sam Amico from hoopswire.com. And Sam, they're not the only team that has a real tough time matching up with Joel Embiid, and it's compounded by the fact that Jared Allen is out. But Joel Embiid was without question the difference in that game last night.
Without a doubt, I thought he had a pretty good job on him as well. So it's just that's always something to do when you talk about a guy potential MVP candidate. There's just a lot to overcome without Jared Allen there as well. So, the nice thing that the Cavs, they did play well. As they gave themselves a fighting chance at the end of the game, after getting down 13 at halftime. And it's really not so much about that one game, but the big picture is you want to be able to keep fighting, keep scrapping, keep putting forth that type of effort as you move forward into these final few weeks of the regular season. Position yourself for a nice playoff seed and hopefully avoid the Philadelphia 76ers in the first round, because they don't really match up with them very well. But the bottom line is if they can get themselves into the playoffs and avoid that play-in tournament, the season really has been a smashing success.
Yeah, right now they are tied with the Raptors for the 6th seed. They do have the tiebreaker over them. And when we look at the next 4 games for both the Cavs and the Raptors, these are going to be critical. You see the Cavs play Denver, Detroit, the Lakers, and then they are at Toronto. And you look at Toronto, they've got the Lakers at Philadelphia, at Chicago, and then Cleveland. So that could go quite a ways as far as determining that 6th spot. So these next 4, crucial. And you know, again, they just need to find a way to get into that, stay in that 6th spot, if you will.
Yeah, that game against Toronto obviously looms large. The nice thing is the Cavs have already won the season series, but when they play, you know, you may be in a tie at that point, and that game will, you know, really will make the season series maybe not count so much. So the thing about the Raptors is you don't know what to expect from them one night to the next. They lost to the Pistons and the Magic, both lowly non-playoff teams at home, and then they go on the West Coast and beat Phoenix and Denver and the Lakers, you know, in 3 consecutive games out west. I think the Cavs were kind of suspecting, you know, we're going to give ourselves some room when the Raptors have to go out west. Now, the nice thing is if you're the Cavs and you're kind of watching the Raptors, well, they still have to play, you know, we saw on that schedule there, before they play the Cavs, they have to play at Philadelphia and at Chicago, 2 other teams that are fighting for playoff positioning. So those games are going to loom large before they even face the Cavaliers. But again, for the Cavs, it just comes down to doing what you do best, and that's giving yourself a chance with a lot of fight, a lot of determination, a lot of surprise. You know, the way they've been playing is they never believe that they're out of any game, and therefore you don't know what to expect. And I mean that in a good way. You don't know what to expect with them because they can win games they're not supposed to win, and maybe kind of give themselves that little bit of an edge going into the postseason. So it's just been, you know, for the Cavs, really, you've kind of, since the All-Star breaks, the playoffs have started probably in February for them, and as well as teams like Toronto and Philadelphia and Chicago and these other teams that have all been fighting for positioning in the East. So it's been a great season, and they just have to continue to keep doing what they're doing and, you know, look forward to the future, because the nice thing is their core is awfully young.
When you look at the injury to Jared Allen, how much longer do you think he's out? It doesn't sound like he needs surgery, which would lead you to believe it's one of those non-displaced fractures, because we haven't heard that he's undergone surgery or needs surgery. It tells you it might not be as long as if he had to have surgery.
Yeah, if he had to have surgery, he probably would have missed the first round of the playoffs. And, you know, you don't know if the Cavs would have gotten beyond that point. The fact that he's not going to have surgery right now, potentially have it in the off season, we're hearing he's optimistic that he could return maybe that final week of the season. And that would help him get acclimated and ready for the playoffs. It sounds like worst case scenario at this point is he will be back for the first round of the playoffs, if not sooner. So that's good news. You know, they're finally starting to get their full lineup, minus Allen. Rondo's out again. But the good news is it's given Mobley a chance to develop, Mobley a chance to face players like Joel Embiid and get that invaluable experience and hold his own. And Lauri Markkanen gives them that more size. Hopefully Dean Wade, also out with an injury, will come back, give them more size. You still have Kevin Love. So they're able to survive Allen's injury because they are able to platoon in capable guys as well as a future, what you think is a future star in Evan Mobley. So once Allen comes back, you know, that gives them what we've seen earlier this season, a whole different dynamic defensively, and really creates even more havoc for opposing guards and big men because you have another rim protector as well as a guy who's going to get you 14 to 20 points a game.
Sam Amico from HoopsWire.com and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. Other side of the break, we continue talking Cavs. We'll talk a little bit more about Evan Mobley, also Karis LeVert, Sports4CLE. We'll be right back talking Cavs. Stay with us. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. Sam, Amico and I continue talking Cavs basketball. Sam, we talked a little bit about Evan Mobley and how impressive is it that he's able to kind of morph? I mean, Allen goes out, he plays a little differently. He did it earlier when Markkanen was out. He seems to be able to do pretty much whatever J.B. Bickerstaff needs him to.
It's really impressive in the sense that, it seemed like at one point right around the All-Star break, he kind of hit that rookie wall where he was kind of struggling a little bit, laboring. And then Allen went out, and all of a sudden it's like, okay, Evan, we need you to kind of push through that wall a little bit, those struggles a little bit. And he answered the call. I mean, he not only is he scoring, defending, playing more aggressively, but he's just never rattled. He's just always in control. He's never forcing anything. One of the most underrated things about the guy is his ability to pass and create. He's an outstanding passer, not just for a 7-footer, but for anybody, a front court player, just always keeping his teammates involved while impacting the game individually. And the nice thing is he's only going to get better. I mean, this is just the tip of the iceberg for the guy. And the fact that Allen is out, that hurts the Cavaliers, clearly. You're talking about an all-star center. But the silver lining is this kid is getting thrown into the fire, having to play against opponent's best front court player on a nightly basis. And that's only going to help him get better, help him get more comfortable in the NBA and really benefit him greatly down the road and build his confidence in the way. The reason it's building his confidence is because he's been playing well against these guys. He's been playing well against the Joel Embiids of the world. So just a great find in the draft for the Cavs, front runner for Rookie of the Year, and really does still have that kind of Chris Bosh, Kevin Garnett, Tim Duncan promise about him that he will have a similar impact to those guys and what they had on their team. So, just a wonderful experience for him, and what a great thing for the Cavs that he is getting to face some of this top talent and not just facing it, but delivering while Jared Allen is out.
LeVert, coming off the injury, still kind of looking to get, his legs under him, no pun intended with the foot injury. He's clearly not quite 100%. How important is it to get him kind of comfortable and rolling if the Cavs are going to do the kind of things they want to do and stay out of that, play-in tournament, maybe even make some noise in a first-round series?
It's vital. He's a guy who can break down opposing defenses. We've seen it, when he was with the Indiana Pacers. We've seen it a couple times with the Cavs when he was healthy. That game in Indiana, I think it was his second or third game with the Cavs when he went back to Indiana. And really, we've seen how the guy can just get a bucket when you desperately need one, or at least create an opportunity for a basket. We saw it against Philadelphia, frankly. When they were down, he drove to the basket, broke down the defender, got to the basket, scored the basket, got fouled. So those are the type of plays that he can make. When the offense kind of stalls, which it can do with a young team, with any team really, he's a guy who you just get the ball to and say, go make something happen, go get us some points, go get us a shot, and he will do that. He's just very smooth type of scorer. He's not a great shooter, but he will fill up the basket, and that's really the benefit that he brings. He's an underrated defender in terms of using his length, and he's a very determined defender. So Yeah, he's vital. I mean, they lost Colin Sexton, and they that was 16 points a game. They really want LeVert to be able to add that. And the nice thing is it's not just LeVert. You're also getting points all of a sudden now from Isaac Okoro, who seems to have rediscovered his groove a little bit, attacking the basket more, drawing fouls. So those two combined, if you can get anywhere from 16 to 30 points from those two combined, you're going to be in business because they're both pretty good defenders, and that's really what the Cavs' bread and butter is, defending and scrapping and all that stuff.
Sam Amico from hoopswire.com. Sam, as always, man, appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much.
All right, thanks, Dave, and we will chat at you soon, I'm sure.
All right, Sam Amico, make sure you read him, hoopswire.com, all things Cavs as well as news from around the NBA. That's going to do it for this edition of Sports for CLE. Mac Robinson will be in as the host tomorrow. Scheduled guests, Hayden Grove from cleveland.com, Casey Kinnaman from Dog Pound Daily. Tomorrow at 4 o'clock. They will see you then. Have a great night, everybody.